Good morning, guys. We will start our class. Okay, right. So yesterday we have discussed the aspects of something related to GDP and GVA, the significance of GVA, and why we have started calculating GVA also along with the GDP. Right. Before that, we have also seen the difference between constant market prices and uh, uh, current market prices. Okay, current market prices, constant market prices, the GDP at constant market prices. We have called this as real GDP, right? We have called this as real GDP. And at current market prices, this GDP or national income, it is calculated. We have called it as nominal GDP. Okay, nominal GDP. How it is calculated? How from nominal GDP? How we can calculate real GDP? That we have seen yesterday with the help of a base year and a GDP deflator. Okay. After that, we have also understood the concept of GVA, why GBA holds significance. We have seen the GDP is not giving a clear picture about the actual contribution sector wise. So with the GVA, we try to get the actual contribution from each and every segment. Okay. For example, the contribution by the agriculture sector, the contribution by the food processing sector, the contribution by the manufacturing sector. In this way, we have understood by two examples. I have taken the example of baking of bread and making textiles, cotton or cloths or t-shirts or shirts. With these two examples, we have understood the significance of GVA for an economy and the need to calculate GVA, right? So yesterday we have seen this. Today we will move forward and we will understand how the actual calculation of the GDP takes place. Today we will try and understand the practical aspects that are associated with GDP calculation. Okay, so calculation of GDP. Okay, who does this? Who calculates GDP? Any idea? Can you share some ideas? Who calculates GDP? One thing you have to remember. One second. A few things you have to remember. You should be thorough with, or you should be knowing who calculates GDP, who gives the figures of GDP, and something other is also there, like calculation of preparation of budget. Okay, this is also an important exercise as part of our economy. And who is behind the preparation of the budget, that you should know, and who is associated or who is responsible for calculation of GDP and releasing GDP figures, maybe annually, maybe quarterly. For us, quarterly GDP figures are also available apart from annual GDP figures. So we should be knowing who is the organization responsible behind the preparation of or calculation of GDP figures, right? So there is an organization called CSO, okay, Central Statistical Office. This is there, okay. This organization is part and parcel or under the NSO, okay. This is National Statistical Organization, okay. Earlier NSSO used to be there. Now apart from that, other organizations also used to be there. We have merged all those organizations and we have made it as NSO, National Statistical Office. Not organization, office. National Statistical Office. Under that, CSO is an important office, Central Statistical Office. So this CSO is responsible for preparation of the figures of GDP. Okay, quarterly also it prepares figures. Okay, it releases two kinds of data, that is quarterly GDP figures. Okay, then it will also release annual GDP figures. Annual GDP figures, right? So it is the responsibility of the Central Statistical Office to release the data with respect to GDP, or for that matter we can call it as national income, right? You got it? It has several responsibilities in doing this. That is, first is collection of the data, about the production of goods and services, whatever we are, यही पढ़ रहे थे ना हम बिगनिंग से. Calculation of GDP or calculation of national income is nothing but calculation of goods and services produced in the economy. So it is the responsibility of the CSO to collect the data related to production of goods and services, collection of data. Okay. Then its a second responsibility is methodology. Okay. There are various methods. I did not mention the methodologies in detail, only have mentioned the methodology which we are following in little bit detail, because that is not going to be asked in the examination, especially in the UPSC examination, maybe in other examinations like the state PCS, that too in prelims, state PCS and railways exam, maybe in SSC, that might be asked, but not in the UPSC exam. Okay, so methodology, there are various methods like income method, expenditure method. Okay, all these income method, expenditure method, like this several methods are there. Production method is also there. So these are the three major methods through which GDP can be calculated. Broadly, majorly we are using the method of expenditure. Okay, so that we have studied expenditure method in the form of C plus I plus G plus X minus M, or NX also we have mentioned that at that time. So this is the formula we have understood. You remember or you don't remember? Okay, कुछ ही दिन हो रहे हैं, कुछ ही दिन है, हो गया है that this thing we have studied. So I hope you will be remembering this formula. Okay, so majorly the CSO is following the methodology of expenditure method among the three methods available: the production method, the income method, and the expenditure method. The formula also we have studied. Okay, if a question is asked, is CSO completely using only this expenditure method? No. Again, getting the complete details about the expenditure is difficult. So for sub segments of the economy, it is using various other methods also. Okay, so we did not go into the details in which areas the CSO is taking which kind of method. Okay, broadly you remember, broadly it is following the method of expenditure. The formula is this. Okay, then after that, the third responsibility of the CSO is the release of calculated data. Okay, periodical release of the GDP calculated data. It can be quarterly also. Now the data is available quarterly, and annual release of GDP data. Right. So these are the responsibilities of Central Statistical Organization, which is the main organization or body behind the calculation of GDP or national income. Okay, will you remember this? Right. So this is one important organization. There is another organization also which plays some role in, or for GDP calculation. It's also important for it. Okay, that organization is Reserve Bank of India. Okay, Reserve Bank of India. This is also an important organization concerned with the calculation of GDP. One thing you have to remember is RBI is directly not involved in the calculation of GDP. Okay, it doesn't involved in the calculation of GDP. Okay, it doesn't involved in the calculation of GDP. Okay, it is, but however, it uses GDP figures. It uses GDP figures in its maybe reports. Okay, and another analysis. Okay, it has to analyze the data for in the future classes you will study the major responsibility of the Reserve Bank of India to control the inflation. It's not proper to use the word control the inflation, but its responsibility is to make sure that inflation is at the desirable level. Okay, so what is the desirable level? what is the leverage that RBI has, and other what are the other goals of Reserve Bank of India. Its another goal is also to contribute for the growth and development of the country, okay, economic development of the country. This is the second objective of the Reserve Bank of India. So when we study the money and banking, there we will study in detail about the Reserve Bank of India's roles and responsibilities. Okay, but for now you remember, though it is not directly involved in the calculation of GDP or national income, GDP figures that have been released by the CSO, Central Statistical Organizations, the Reserve Bank of India actively utilizes those figures. Okay, so apart from that, it also gives estimates of GDP. It also gives estimates of GDP. Okay, it gives estimates of GDP. That is, this financial year maybe the country may grow by this much percentage. Like that, it gives estimates. Along with that, in deciding its monetary policy, we will study in detail about the monetary policy also. Monetary policy is the responsibility of the Reserve Bank of India. On the other hand, the fiscal policy, there is a policy called as fiscal policy. It is the responsibility of the government. We will study about these policies also. Don't worry. Okay. So in its monetary policy determination, the RBI will also keep in mind the GDP figures. Okay. Right. So in this way also RBI is influencing or is concerned with the calculation of national income or GDP in our country, right? Okay. So these are the two major institutions or organizations that are very much concerned with the calculation of GDP in our country. Okay. So will you remember these things? I hope you will remember. Okay. Right. Okay. We will move forward. And now we will see GDP is being calculated, and can you tell the approximate figure of GDP of our country right now? How much is the size of our economy, or how much is our national income? Okay, how much it is? We are close to hitting the $4 trillion economy. Oh, sorry, $4 trillion. Okay, we are very much close to hitting the target of $4 trillion economy. This is directly in dollars. There is another way of calculating GDP also, that is PPP, GDP in purchasing power parity terms. Okay, this is PPP. GDP at PPP is taken, or per capita income. Once you get the GDP, it is very easy to get the per capita income also. You just divide the GDP with the total population of the country, then you will get the per capita income. So GDP or per capita income at purchasing power parity level. Actually, for international comparison, this PPP is very much useful. So in deciding the human development index, etc., countries' GDPs, or for that matter, the per capita income of the countries is required. So in that terms, PPP will also be calculated. Okay. So in normal terms, in actual dollar terms, at which place we are? We have reached the 5th place in the topmost economies in the aspect of GDP or in the terms of national income. Okay. In purchasing power parity wise, if we see, we have already reached the 3rd position after United States of America and China. We are in the 3rd position. If we see in actual dollar terms, we are at the 5th place. This is soon it is going to change also. Maybe in the near future we may cross Great Britain also. So what are the countries that are above us? USA, United States of America. Then at second place, China. 3rd place, can you name the 3rd place? Japan. Japan is at the 3rd place. Then UK or Great Britain is at the 4th place. India is at 5th place. Okay. We have crossed France somewhere, maybe I think 1 year back or 1.5 years back. We have crossed France, and we have become the fifth largest economy in the world. Okay, and before us there are four countries: USA, China, Japan, and UK. Okay, it is being said that the way we are growing, we are soon going to cross UK also, and we are going to become the fourth largest economy. And in some terms, in certain other terms, some statistics, some reports are saying that we have already crossed the UK also, and we are the fourth largest economy. Okay, right? So some type of calculations are saying that, but if you see in general dollar terms, we are the fifth largest economy in the world. Okay, this is about the size of the GDP or national income. If you see growth rate of the country, growth rate means how much the GDP increasing every year. Okay, if you see like worlds, we are the largest, we are the uh, fastest growing largest economy or larger economy. Means if you take the larger economies are economies with considerable amount of GDP. So if you take these countries, India is the fastest growing among these countries. What is our growth rate? It is hovering over approximately just below 7 or just little bit above 7%. So approximately this is our growth rate right now, GDP growth rate. Okay, so this growth rate is now the fastest for the major economies. Okay, you think this is some achievement? Okay, we can consider it as an achievement, but we have to grow like that for long time, just like China did in 1990s and 2000s. We have to grow like anything, then only we will be in a position to alleviate the poverty in our country, which China could do to a large extent. Okay, that type of, we have to replicate China. One way we have to, on one way we have to keep growing, and the other way we have to reap those benefits of growth to alleviate the poverty in our country. Okay, then only there is a meaning for our growth rate. Okay, right. So how long we are going to grow, till where, till what time we have the that growth window, the all those things we will study when we study the demographic dividend. The opportunity is not going to be there for always. uh, Now India is one of the youngest populations. That means the average age of the population is around somewhere around 30 plus. Okay, it is not similar for majority of the countries. Okay, average age is much more for majority of the countries. Okay, so by the opportunity of demographic dividend is the working age population is much more in our country compared to dependent population. Because of that reason, there is lot of potential for growth rate, and we are utilizing that a little bit. We are growing, but then that window is going to close someday, maybe in 2036, 37. By this years, the working age population will decline, and dependency population will increase. Okay, the demographic dividend window is going to close by that time. Then it's very difficult, then it will become very difficult to grow like this. Okay, so we have window of maybe 15 to 20 years. Within these years we have to encash the demographic dividend. Okay, in detail when we study demographic dividend in the human resource topics, we will definitely discuss it, but for now you remember these things. Okay, so this is about the size and growth rate of our economy. Okay, now we will see there have been changes in the methodology through which we were calculating the GDP. So there have been considerable changes in the methodology of GDP calculation in the year of 2015. Anybody remembers this? Anybody knows about this? There was a change in the methodology of calculation of GDP in 2015. Okay, so there was a question already on this changed methodology of calculation of GDP. So maybe in prelims, maybe mains it may not be asked, because already once it is asked. In prelims there is a chance they may ask a question from here. So briefly we will see What are the changes that have been brought in 2015 in calculation of GDP methodology? Okay, right. First method, very easy one, because I have explained it yesterday itself. First one is base year change. Okay, base year change. What we have done here. So in calculating the GDP, we need base year. For calculating the real GDP, we have understood this yesterday. So earlier, before 2015, the base year was 2014. Okay, 2004, 2004-5 was the base year. We have changed this to 2011-12. Okay, the reason behind this, base year should be a normal year that we have understood, and it should be close to the present financial year, because it should be realistic. To be realistic, we have to take the more recent year as the base year to calculate the real GDP of the country. Okay, for this purpose we have changed the base year from 2004-5 to 2011-12. Okay, so this is one change, first and more important change. Okay, second change is there, that is, for considering the national income, we have taken market prices, that is the two constant market prices, not current market prices. Constant market prices, that is nothing but real market prices or market prices of the base year. Okay, current market prices as the national income. Before that, what prices we were taking, or what GDP we were taking? GDP at factor cost. GDP at factor cost we were taking. You remember the difference between factor cost, GDP at factor cost, and GDP at market prices? What was the difference? Can anybody tell? Two important aspects will be there in that. Okay, anybody can recall that? One thing is indirect taxes, majorly the indirect taxes, and other one is subsidies. Okay, these two were impacting the market prices. So at factor cost, these two things will not be impacting the GDP calculation. So however, we have decided that the GDP at market prices will be actually be giving the proper picture of the economic activity in the country. That is the practice at the international level also. So that's why we have shifted to GDP at current market prices, constant market prices in the place of GDP at factor cost. We are considering this as the national income. Okay, this is the second important change. And after that, there is a change in sectoral calculation. Okay, sectoral classification. There is a, before 2015 there was one system of sectoral classification. In 2015 there is a change in sectoral classification. Okay, classification. We have tried to take more realistic picture in the sectoral classification. So this classification we have made in accordance with the National Industrial Classification. I hope this is visible. National Industrial Classification Standards of 2008. Classification of 2008. So there are standards. These standards have come. Based on these standards, we have done a different type of sectoral classification for better calculation of the GDP. Okay, this is the third change that we have brought in 2015. Okay, and the fourth change is, okay, very important change. We have started calculating MCA 21 data. Okay, MCA 21 data for corporate sector. MCA 21 data for contributing or calculating the contribution of the corporate sector. Okay. Earlier we were using some survey report of some surveys, etc. But from 2015 onwards, we have started using the MCA 21 data for calculating the contribution of corporate sector. What is this MCA 21 data? MCA 21 means it is the name of a portal. Okay, it is a portal under the Ministry of Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Okay, MCA 21 is nothing but it is a portal. Okay, portal under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Okay, here the corporates or the industries that are there, they are expected to register and they have to fill the portal or details that are there in the portal. So the CSO believed that this portal gives the actual or more realistic picture about the corporate sector or corporate that are there in our country. So it started utilizing the data from this portal for calculating the contribution of the corporate sector for GDP. Okay, right. So this is the fourth important change. Okay, right. Next is we have tried to cover the informal sector. Okay, informal sector is a big problem in calculation of GDP. I mean, informal sector itself is not a problem. We should not say like that because informal sector is playing an important role. Informal sector is, I will give few examples. A person who has opened a small eatery and he is selling his goods and services. It is very useful. People are also enjoying the food services provided by this person, and because of that eatery, his family is also able to eke out some living. So, like this, many industries are there, many industries and services are there, which are not known to government or they are not registered with the government, but they are there in our economy. Okay, they are playing very important role also in informal sector. Small factories, small services. A person has opened a small saloon, okay, and he is not registered with the government. Okay, these type of industries or services are known as informal sector in our country. Though they are playing an important role, unfortunately they are not registered with the government, so there is some problem in this way, but they are playing an important role in the economy. Okay, overall economy, they are generating jobs, they are filling the vacuum in major areas, but in GDP calculation they are omitted. Okay, majority of the times the economic activity that is taking place in the informal sector, that is being omitted. Okay, right. So we try to, after 2015, we try to somehow cover the activity of the informal sector also by including annual survey of industries, by taking in the annual survey of industries data and some data from the National Sample Survey Organization's data or some data from the NSS, National Sample Survey. So by this way, we try to include the activity in the informal sector. Okay, so still we do not have complete success in this area. We are going to study that aspecting challenges of the GDP calculation. Okay, right. Apart from that, there is a financial sector in our country. Financial sector is the the transactions, money transactions that are taking place, individual loans given, taken. Okay, like that, many financial services are there, like small savings, small insurance services, etc. Like that, plenty of services are there. Okay, but unfortunately, they are also not included in the calculation of GDP. So we try to calculate comprehensively this time or after 2015. Okay, financial sector, this financial sector, we try to cover it more comprehensively. Okay, we try to cover financial sector more comprehensively after 2015. Okay, this is also very important change. Okay, all right. Apart from that, other changes are also there. Okay, some other changes are there. These are also very important. Okay, the next change is, like I mentioned, we have started calculating the GVA, gross value addition. What is the importance of GVA? How it is significant? What is its importance? All these things we have understood. Okay, so from 2015 onwards, we have started calculating GVA for various sectors. Okay, right. So this is the another important change. In this, as part of calculating GVA on two areas. We have started giving importance to GVA, or we can say like this, we have started giving much more importance to GVA in two sectors. First one is agriculture sector, because agriculture sector is considered as the backbone of our economy. Okay, its performance is very important. In that context, we have to much more clearly understand the contribution of the contribution of agriculture sector in the economy. For that, we have started calculating GVA for the agriculture sector. So this is known as agriculture GVA, gross value added by the agriculture sector or in the agriculture sector. Okay. Second one is for manufacturing also. For manufacturing also, manufacturing is also very important area. We will try and understand it when we study industry. Manufacturing is very, very, very important for the growth of every country. Okay, this sector holds the capacity of transforming an economy or a country from developing to developed country. Okay, this manufacturing sector holds a lot of importance in the economic structure of any country. We will understand when we study industry, there we will understand in detail. Okay, unfortunately, the contribution of manufacturing sector in our country is stagnant for decades together. It is hovering around 16 to 17% of the GDP. GVA, agriculture GVA, if you see, it is around 14 to 15%. Okay, GDP little bit more, 16 to 17%. Agriculture GDP wise, if you see, it is 16 to 17%. GVA, it is little bit less, 14 to 50%. Okay, manufacturing contribution, if you see, it is 16 to 17% for GDP. Ideally, it should have been at 25%. Ideally, figure for manufacturing sector is 25 or more than that. But unfortunately, we could not achieve this much growth. Our manufacturing sector is not growing. So why it is not growing? What are the measures that have been taken to push this sector? PLI scheme is there, Make in India scheme is there. Like that, we have started plenty of schemes, but unfortunately, the results are not coming as anticipated. Okay, so everything about the manufacturing sector we will try and understand in the future classes. Don't worry. Okay, so what we have done after 2015, we have also started measuring the manufacturing GDP. Okay, because these two areas are very important for a country. These two, if we could develop these two segments, the country will automatically develop. अपने आप country develop हो जाएगा if there is improvement in these two sectors. Okay, so that's why we have started considering GVA for these two sectors. Okay, apart from that, one more thing is also there. Last thing, here after 2015, there is an economic activity or economic contribution is there from local bodies also. Okay, services provided by the local bodies. In the calculation of GDP, we are seeing the contribution of central government and state government. How? The government expenditure, we have seen, right? Government expenditure. In the formula, we have seen the government expenditure also in the form of roads, construction of roads, infrastructure development, etc., etc. The letter E in the formula, it shows the expenditure of the government. Here, the contribution from the central government and the state governments, both of them is included, but unfortunately, the expenditure done by the local bodies that has been not calculated properly. So after 2015, we tried to incorporate the activities of the local bodies also. Okay, so broadly, these are the changes, major changes we have tried to bring in calculation of GDP after 2015. This is being popularly said as change in the methodology of GDP calculation after 2015. Okay, right. As I mentioned already, this is an important area. Already a question has been asked in mains. Okay, maybe in prelims a question can be expected. Okay, right. So will you remember these changes? What are all the changes that have been done in 2015? Will you remember? Okay, I hope you will remember. Okay, so in this chapter or in this unit, Introduction to Economics, One subpart in this is classification of economies, and another subpart is national income. Okay, we have come to the end of this chapter, that is introduction to economics, or we can call it as a separate unit also, national income. Okay, we have come to the end. One last topic is remaining, that is challenges in GDP calculation. Okay, challenges in GDP calculation, or challenges with the GDP calculation, we will see like that, GDP calculation. Okay, challenges in GDP calculation or challenges with the GDP calculation. This is also a very important topic. Previously already have mentioned, there are challenges in calculating GDP itself, and considering GDP as the measure for measuring the growth of a country. Problems are there also. So we are going to see these problems in the next chapter. The chapter name is Growth, Development and Happiness. For this chapter purpose, we will see the challenges with the calculation of GDP, okay, or challenges in calculation of GDP, okay, right. So what are the challenges, or any challenges coming to your mind? Any challenges you can mention? Okay, right. So first and foremost thing, the problem with the GDP is it won't consider distribution of income. Okay, distribution of income it won't consider. Okay, simply it is calculating the income of the entire country. इसमें मेरा इनकम कितना है, अंबानी का कितना इनकम है, अदानी का कितना इनकम है, it is not worried about that. Okay, it is not worried about the income of a person living in Andaman and Nicobar Island, and the income of the Adani, income of Ambani, it is not concerned. Okay, so what is the problem here? The problem here is, of course, people are earning income, but that it is highly skewed income. Okay, highly skewed income. Only few segments of the people they are cornering majority of the income. I have mentioned previously how this is mentioned through the Oxfam report. Okay. Please forgive me, at that time I have written the wrong spelling of the Oxfam. In the habit it has happened. The correct spelling is this one, Oxfam report. Okay, Oxfam report. This is an NGO. Okay, it is actually an international NGO working on the inequalities of the people. So there are reports of the Oxfam. You see the reports, latest reports. Okay, it is giving the inequality at both levels. That is, first is income inequality, and the second one is wealth inequalities. Okay, so you see about these inequalities. What the report says is, there is income being generated in the country, but majority of the income is cornered by minority of the people, small section of the people, and the rest of the people sharing the rest of the income. Okay, so the point here we have to take is, there is inequality in the incomes earned by the people. Okay, and unfortunately that inequality is rising. मतलब जो भी inequality है वो बढ़ता जा रहा है. If it is reducing, it is being reduced, that's okay, that is good. But unfortunately already there is income disparity, income inequality, and वो बढ़ता जा रहा है. This is a cause of concern. और GDP बिल्कुल इसके बारे में सोचता नहीं है. Okay, right. So you remember in this context the Oxfam report and Gini quotient. This also I have mentioned. Okay, Gini quotient. This also I have mentioned. So you remember them. Okay, right. Second problem is, it is not measuring the non-market economy. Okay, it is not measuring the non-market economy. So what is the meaning of non-market economy? Can anybody tell? Anybody knows anything about non-market economy? Right? We will understand like this. Okay, there is a family. Okay, in that mother, father, and two children are there. Okay, father every day he goes to office, okay, he works there from 10 to 6 and he comes back at the end of the month, he will get salary, okay, happy, okay. There is mother in the house, okay. What she will do, she will wake up in the morning, she will cook the food, she will ready the children, she will send the children to the school, she will send her husband to the school, उसके बाद she will wash the clothes, कपड़ा धोएंगे और बर्तन धोएंगे, and there will be elderly in the people, okay, grandparents will be there, so she will take care of those grandparents also, okay. फिर घर साफ करना, everything she will do, okay. But how much she will be paid? What is her salary? Zero. She is not paid for that work, okay. So this work done by many women in our country, that is known as, okay, housework or household work and child care, okay. She is also taking care of child care, or we can say care work, okay, household work and care work, okay. This is not paid in our country or for any country. It's very difficult to measure this. Of course, men will also contribute little bit. I'm not saying they will not contribute a lot, but majority cases it is majority of the work will be done by the women and their work is not being measured, okay. This is one area. ये include करना चाहिए नहीं करना चाहिए, should it be included or not? जो बाहर जाके मतलब ऑफिस में काम कर रहा है वो उसके लिए सैलरी दिया जा रहा है एंड इट इज बीइंग कैलकुलेटेड इन जीडीपी. लेकिन विमेन भी काम कर रहे हैं, दे आर आल्सो वर्किंग, ओके, दे आर आल्सो प्रोवाइडिंग सर्विसेज, but there is no salary being paid to them and that is not being calculated in the GDP, right? So is it an anomaly or not? Is it a drawback or not? Right, it is a drawback, okay. Based on this also there was an essay, maybe I think 2 to 3 years back there was an essay in the essay paper, so it is very important, okay, it is an important lacuna in the GDP calculation. ये मुश्किल भी है कैलकुलेट करना, इतना आसान नहीं है, okay. So that's why however it is a drawback in the calculation of GDP, okay. ये है unpaid care work, okay. This is one area, unpaid care work, okay. Second one is there are voluntary organizations. Care work, unpaid care work is one area. Voluntary organizations like NGOs, maybe NGOs their contribution is calculated, but youth associations, welfare organizations, कुछ छोटे छोटे जगहों पे ये voluntary organizations हैं and they also contribute, they provide services to the society, okay. जहाँ पे disaster हो जाता है, these voluntary organizations will go and they will help in the helping the sufferers. वायनाड में अभी डिजास्टर हुआ था, लैंडस्लाइड हुआ था, ओके, पीपल हैव सफर्ड देयर, सो प्लेंटी ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, वॉलंटरी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैव गॉन देयर एंड दे हैव लेंड देयर हेल्प, but unfortunately their work is not being included in the GDP calculation, okay. This kind of lacuna is also there. Third thing is still in certain pockets of our country, especially in tribal pockets, there is a barter system, okay. There is a barter system. I think previously there was a mention when we were studying about the types of economies, there was mention about the barter system, okay. Still in some tribal areas there is barter system, okay, and this barter system is also not included in the calculation of GDP. You forget about the barter system. I told the biggest problem is we are going to study informal sector itself is not included in the calculation of GDP, okay. So in this way non-market economy is not calculated in the GDP, okay. That is another problem. This is also a biggest problem, okay. Right. Another is area where lacuna is there, problem is there is environmental costs, okay. During the economic activity or in the economic activity, environment is being damaged. Environment is being damaged, but GDP is not considering those costs, okay. How environment is being damaged? We are using the natural resources, area we are using, water we are using, okay. Plenty of other resources we are using, natural resources, okay. Their stock is depleting, that is one thing, and pollution is being done. Okay, polluted gases are being released into the environment. Other pollutants, they are polluted water is being released into the rivers and water bodies. In that way they are causing to natural water bodies. Okay, then forest is being cut and forest is being used in this way, and damage to soil is also there. So in this way soil pollution is occurring. Lot of industries, they will create lot of noise, so noise pollution is being created. So in this way this is a negative impact on the environment, but that is negative impact is not being calculated in the GDP. मतलब कुछ पोर्शन को हमको निकालना होगा जीडीपी से, because this is negative impact on the environment, but in that way we are not doing. Okay, वो negative impact deduct नहीं किया जा रहा है GDP calculation से. Okay, apart from that there is degradation for ecology. Okay, ecological degradation is there. Okay, in the form of destruction of forest, mining activity भी चल रहा है, lot of harm is being done to environment. Birds है environment में, animals है, so birds are being impacted, animals are being impacted. We are keep saying no biodiversity loss. Okay, decline of biodiversity. इस तरीके से काफी ज्यादा नुकसान हो रहा है environment को, but unfortunately that is not being considered in the GDP calculation. हालांकि इसको कंसिडर करना चाहिए था. Okay, all these are called as negative externalities. Negative externalities. Okay, so what the industries or economy is doing, it is socializing the negative externalities. The industries are socializing the negative externalities, मतलब ये सोसाइटी के ऊपर छोड़ दिया जा रहा है. whatever the cost of environment is there, which could have been actually calculated or put on the industry. The industry should have bear the burden of this negative externality, but it is socializing this negative externality, मतलब सोसाइटी के ऊपर छोड़ दे रहा है. Okay, so this is also a lucky law, right? Apart from that right, apart from that other areas are there, other concerns are also there. We will see those concerns. Okay, the other concern is it focuses on production. Just it is simply focusing on production. Okay, you produce. Okay, simply economic GDP is focusing on whether there is increasing productivity or not. यही सिर्फ यही कंसर्न है जीडीपी का, whether whatever the goods and services produced they are consumed by the people or not, or people are consumption. Okay, whether people are in a position to consume the goods and services or not, especially the required goods and services. people have income, sufficient income or not, GDP इसके ऊपर बिल्कुल इंटरेस्ट नहीं ले रहा है. ओके, सो कंजम्पशन कैपेसिटी ऑफ द पीपल इज नॉट गिवन इंपॉर्टेंस. एक ही साइड द जीडीपी इज कंसीडरिंग ओनली वन साइड, दैट इज प्रोडक्शन. कंजम्पशन की साइड से वो नहीं सोच रहा है. ओके, दैट इज द सेकंड वन इज simply it is focused on production of goods and services. It is not considering well-being of the people in the process. Okay, well-being of the people it is not at all considering. So whether sufficient quantities of basic goods are produced or not, it is not considering that. Basic goods are clothes to wear, shelter to live, etc. These are basic goods. And services like education, health, okay, and the basic financial services, these are important for the well-being of the people, but GDP is not focusing on them. This is another area. Okay, and apart from that, certain goods and production of certain goods and services is considered as development, like production of missiles. Okay, production of missiles, production of weapons, spending on the defense manufacturing. Okay, so all this production is being calculated in the GDP and it is considered as growth of a country, but in fact growth आता है इन चीजों की वजह से. missiles, weapons of mass destruction, weapons are there, plenty of weapons are there. So अभी जो हो रहा है इसराइल एंड पैलेस्टाइन के बीच में जो हो रहा है. ओके, right? So it is actually these things are causing destruction, but however they are, when they are produced, they are considered, they are included in the GDP, and we would say we have achieved growth. Okay, right? So these are the problems. Okay, right? So these are all the these are the many problems that are there in the calculation of GDP, or we can say they are shortcomings of GDP also. Okay, right? So apart from that, there is a big shortage. We are taking, or in the past we have taken GDP as the actual growth of the country. बाद में after 2000s we have realized that there are other aspects also like development, inclusive development. These things have to be given importance. In that way we have started thinking. So for that there are certain other measures like human development index, etc., gender development index, etc. Those kind of indexes have come to actually measure the development of the human beings. Okay, those things we are going to study in the next class. But एक छोटा सा टॉपिक बचा है, that is alternatives. So we have realized that there are problems with GDP, considering GDP as the metric of growth for a country. So we have thought about certain alternatives. So briefly we will see those alternatives. Okay, alternatives for GDP as a measure of development. GDP alternatives. Okay, in that instead of only considering GDP, we can consider green GDP. Okay, green GDP. From 2013-14 onwards, there was a proposal to parallelly along with the GDP to calculate green GDP also. So what this green GDP will do? This will consider the damage to environment, or in other way we can say the reduction of natural resource stock. Reduction of natural resource stock in the country. Okay, so it will minus the reduction, this amount will be minused or removed from the GDP, actual GDP. So that will give the green GDP, the figure of green GDP. So what green GDP will give, what picture does the green GDP will give? The green GDP will give the picture of damage done to the environment. Okay, in the process of economic activity. This is one alternative. Other alternative is also there, right? Some other alternative is HDI, Human Development Index. Okay, so this is given by right? So World Bank, we are going to study about the Human Development Index in very much detail. Okay, so what is India's rank in Human Development Index, etc. All these things we are going to study in detail. Okay, not only GDP means it will take per capita income. HDI will take per capita income. Okay, after that it will take the aspects of education also. Okay, and it will take health aspect also into consideration. Okay, so we will study how GDP will be calculated, what is the performance of India, and we will also see a comparison with our neighboring countries. Okay, so this is an important alternative, Human Development Index. Okay, other alternative is gross national happiness, GNH. Okay, gross national happiness. So आपने सुना है इसके बारे में, ग्रॉस नेशनल हैप्पीनेस? अजीब लग रहा है ना? Okay, you might have heard about this. Actually there is a, हमारा एक पड़ोसी है, okay, पड़ोसन है भूटान. Okay, Bhutan is calculating gross national happiness in place of gross domestic product. Okay, so 1970 से ये कर रहा है, but earlier nobody was concerned about Bhutan. कि कुछ लोग तो हंसे थे भूटान के ऊपर कि क्या मेजर कर रहे हैं, हैप्पीनेस क्या मेजर करना है. Okay, like that. But every country is now impressed with the Bhutan's effort in calculating the gross national happiness, because अभी लोगों को समझ में आया कि पैसे, प्रोडक्शन ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज कुछ नहीं करने वाला है. इट इज नॉट गोइंग टू गिव हैप्पीनेस. असली हैप्पीनेस कहीं और है. Okay, actual happiness is somewhere else. Okay, प्रोडक्शन ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज में नहीं है, ये पीपल रियलाइज कर गया है. ओके, दैट्स व्हाई ग्रॉस नेशनल हैप्पीनेस ऑफ भूटान हैज कम इनटू लॉट ऑफ प्रोमिनेंस. वी आर गोइंग टू स्टडी अबाउट इट in detail also in the next chapter, that is growth, development and happiness. Okay, however this is also an alternative for the GDP. Instead of say only calculating GDP, we can also try and calculate gross national happiness of the people in our country. Okay, right. After that, one more indicator is also there, genuine progress indicator. Okay, GPI, genuine progress indicator is also there. So what this will do, it will adjust GDP, it will adjust GDP for environmental and social costs. Okay, environmental costs and as well as social costs. It will adjust the GDP for environmental costs and social costs. It's similar to green GDP. So what green GDP was doing, it was only considering the environmental costs. So what genuine progress indicator will do, along with the environmental costs, it will also consider social costs. Okay, so it will adjust the GDP for these costs, right? So these are certain alternatives for GDP. We should try and think of considering or measuring these things also along with the GDP. Recently I have heard some news that India is actively considering calculating GDP in the near future. We will see whether that will happen or not. Earlier in approximately around 2013-14, when Jairam Ramesh was the environment minister, he actually pursued this idea of calculating green GDP along with the normal GDP. Okay, so unfortunately that could not be realized completely. However, once again there is news reports. I heard the news something like that. The government is contemplating calculating GDP, green GDP. So we will see whether that will be realized or not. Okay. So however, this is the first chapter. I hope you have understood all the important aspects that we have studied in this chapter. Okay. So next chapter is growth, development and happiness, which is a continuation of this chapter. We are going to study that chapter. Okay. One more thing I wanted to tell you guys, that for few days, maybe for 10 days, there will not be any lectures because there is a marriage in my family. घर पे शादी है. So I will not be uploading videos for these days. Okay. After once I come back, maybe from 3rd September onwards, once again I will try and do the classes. Okay. So this is one thing I wanted to tell you. And one more thing is, you think about the mentorship program. Mentorship program is available, okay, under my guidance. It will be a year-long mentorship program till the mains of 2025. Okay, so you will have my complete guidance and support through the mentorship program. Okay, so you think about that one also. Okay, right. We will stop here. See you next time. Until then, have a good time. Okay, right.